I want you to imagine something. I want you to think in your mind and imagine this: a child with autism, right? Just picture that in your mind, okay? Now, did you perhaps imagine a white boy? I mean, look, I really don't blame you if that's what you imagine, because after all, here are a couple of examples of white men in the media that portray autistic characters. I mean, it makes sense. You see it everywhere in the media, right? So that's naturally the image you have in your mind. Unfortunately, this type of bias also exists in the research. I've read a lot of studies about autism, and most, if not all of them, disproportionately sample from white boys. The problem with this is that now our knowledge of autism is based off of white boys. So we don't really know what those underrepresented groups with autism, how they behave, what their symptoms of autism are. We only know really how white boys with autism behave. And this is a problem because in diagnosis, if doctors don't know what symptoms to look for in underrepresented groups and all they know is the symptoms that white boys with autism have, the problem is that white boys will be overdiagnosed and underrepresented groups will be underdiagnosed. So, one of these groups is girls, the other one is children of color. Now, why these two groups? Well, the reason is girls and children of color exhibit different autism symptoms than white boys, and due to certain cultural or societal norms, their symptoms may not be noticed as much, and therefore their parents will not go and get a diagnosis for them. So, let's look at the first group, boys versus girls, right? Boys with autism, according to research, are more boisterous, right? More aggressive, more hyperactive and impulsive. Girls with autism, on the other hand, tend to be a little more reserved, less extreme. And so as a result, their symptoms will usually not be noticed as much. They also tend to have better language and social skills, so they may seem to be doing a lot better. And so as a result, their symptoms will not be detected. The second group, right, whites versus non-white children. So in certain non-white cultures, there are different expectations in development. So in certain cultures, milestones for development may be a little different. So something we may consider normal at age 3, they may consider normal at age 4. So they will not notice something missing at age 3. An example of that is eye contact. So in Asian cultures, eye contact is somewhat rude or inappropriate. But in Western cultures, eye contact is a normal sign of healthy social development. Eye contact being a symptom of autism, as a result, if an Asian kid is not making eye contact, the parents may not think anything's wrong with them, whereas in reality it may be a sign of autism, and so the parents will not go and get a diagnosis. Now, why is this a problem? Well, if the parents don't know what symptoms to look for, they won't go to the doctor. And if the doctors don't know what symptoms to look for, the child will not get a diagnosis. And some of these underrepresented children with autism, without a diagnosis, will not be able to get the right treatment. And sometimes they may have to go on for years and years of their life struggling with social skills and language skills without getting the proper help. So what do we want to do now? First off, we want to educate parents. We need to tell parents, especially of different cultures, that these are certain of the developmental milestones that they need to look for in their children. And if a child is missing a milestone at a certain point, then that is a sign that maybe there's something developmentally wrong with the child and they need to go get a diagnosis. And doctors also need to know what symptoms to look for. So they need to have a better understanding of autism that isn't just based off of white boys, right? So they have to know how underrepresented groups display signs of autism so that they can give the proper diagnosis. So maybe one day we will see more characters in the media like Bones and Astrid, female characters who have autism. Thank you.